Silent Hill 2 Remake. I've got to say, it totally nails that eerie, unsettling vibe that made the original such a classic. I mean, Silent Hill 2 is already one of the most iconic horror games out there, but this remake, it's like they took all the stuff that creeped us out back in the day and cranked it up with these incredible graphics and sound design. The foggy town of Silent Hill looks absolutely gorgeous in this remake. Well, in a terrifying, twisted way, of course. The way the fog moves, the way the shadows creep along the streets, it's so atmospheric. Walking through those empty, run-down streets, you can just feel the tension building. I caught myself hesitating before turning corners, just bracing for whatever nightmare was waiting around the bend. The monsters are just insane. Pyramid Head is back, and just as horrifying as ever. Seeing him in high definition? Yeah, it gave me chills. And the sound design makes it even worse. In the best way. You'll hear these distant, unsettling noises, and it just puts you on edge the entire time. The sound of the radio static kicking in right before a monster appears still gets me every time. What I also love is how faithful the remake is to the original, but it also adds some nice quality of life improvements. The controls feel smoother. The combat is a little more refined, but it still keeps that you're not some action hero vibe. Every encounter with a monster feels dangerous, like you're barely scraping by, which is exactly what you want in a horror game like this. If you're into survival horror at all, or if you loved the original, you've got to check this out. Next we have Prey. This is one of those games that should have been a hit, but for whatever reason didn't catch on like it deserved to. And honestly, it's a real shame. Now, the controversy with Prey, it starts with the name. A lot of fans of the original Prey from 2006 were upset that Arcane's game had the same title, but was basically a completely different thing. There was no connection to the original Prey, no Tommy, no spirit abilities, none of that. So, right off the bat, some people were mad because they were expecting a sequel or continuation of the original, but Arcane went in a totally different direction. But if you put that aside and judge Prey for what it is, it's actually one of the best immersive sims out there. Arcane is known for crafting amazing worlds. The level design is just insane. You've got all these interconnected areas, and the way you can approach situations, whether you want to sneak, hack, fight, or even turn into a coffee cup. Yeah, that's a thing. Gives you so much freedom. And let's talk about the Typhon, the alien enemies in the game. The mimics are probably the most memorable. These little guys can disguise themselves as everyday objects, so every time you walk into a room, you're second-guessing everything. Is that chair just a chair? Or is it about to jump at me? It adds this constant tension that makes the whole experience so gripping. Combat can be pretty tough, but it's rewarding. The glue gun is such a cool weapon. It's not just for fighting, but you can use it to create platforms and block hazards. That's what's awesome about Prey. Next we have Nier Automata. One of those games that didn't exactly explode onto the scene when it first launched, but ended up becoming a cult classic. If you've never played it, at first glance it might seem like just another action RPG. But this game much more than that. It's one of those titles that, once you dive in, completely pulls you in with its depth themes and that emotional roller coaster of a story. But here's the thing. When it first came out, not a lot of people were talking about it. Sure, it had fans, but it didn't immediately blow up like some big AAA game. Part of that might be because the original was kind of niche and never really became a mainstream hit. So it had this uphill battle where people weren't sure if it was worth checking out. The game is weird. And I say that in the best possible way. It doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't give you a typical RPG experience, and the story can get really out there. You've got androids questioning the meaning of life, robots acting like humans, existential dread, and more than a few mind-bending plot twists. For some players, it was a little too philosophical. It's not afraid to get deep and ask big questions. And that can be off-putting if you're just looking for a straightforward action game. Then there's the whole multiple endings thing. It doesn't just have a single ending, it has like 26 of them. Now, most of those are joke endings, but to get the full story, you actually have to play through the game multiple times, seeing it from different perspectives. Some people love that. It's one of the game's strengths, but others didn't really want to replay the same sections to uncover the whole narrative. It was divisive, to say the least. Next we have The Evil Within, a game that brought some real old-school survival horror vibes, but didn't quite get the love it deserved. Honestly, this game flew under the radar for a lot of people, which is crazy because it was directed by Shinji Mikami, the guy behind Resident Evil 4. You'd think that would have guaranteed a Game of the Year contender, right? What made The Evil Within stand out was how it balanced psychological horror with intense, sometimes brutal action. The game wasn't just about jump scares, though it had plenty of those. It was about atmosphere, tension, and always keeping the player on edge. You never felt safe, which is what survival horror should be all about. And the world? Creepy, unsettling, filled with twisted, nightmarish creatures. It really felt like a descent into madness. But let's be real. The Evil Within wasn't for everyone, and that's probably why it didn't snag a Game of the Year. The difficulty was punishing at times, with limited ammo, tough enemies, and the kind of survival mechanics that could frustrate players who weren't prepared for that hardcore experience. It had this real old-school design that some players loved, but others found off-putting. People who were used to more action-focused horror games weren't always vibing with the slower, more methodical pace. The game was also pretty divisive when it came to its story. Some people thought the plot was all over the place, a little too cryptic and hard to follow, but here's the thing. If you were a fan of old-school survival horror, The Evil Within was a gem. It was a love letter to the genre, and it had all the elements to be a classic. Next we have Ghost of Tsushima. From the moment you start playing, it just feels like you're stepping into this beautifully crafted world. The first thing that really grabbed me was the landscape. The island of Tsushima is stunning, with these rolling hills, forests, and temples scattered all around. And the way the wind guides you instead of using a mini-map, that was such a cool touch. It makes you feel like you're part of the world, not just playing a game. The combat is another thing that I couldn't stop thinking about. It's so fluid and satisfying. At first, I was a bit nervous because samurai combat can be tricky, but the way it's designed here feels so intuitive. You switch between stances depending on who you're fighting, and it just flows so well. Every sword fight feels like it has weight. There were times when I would stop and challenge a group of enemies to a standoff, just because it felt so epic. You literally feel like a samurai. Speaking of feeling like a samurai, the story really pulls you in. It's all about Jin Sakai and his struggle between upholding the samurai code and doing what needs to be done to save his people. It gets you thinking, you know? Like, what would you do in his shoes? Would you stick to the rules or adapt to survive? The game really leans into that inner conflict, and I found myself getting attached to Jin and the other characters, especially his uncle. The emotional moments hit hard, and let's not forget the duels. Oh man, the duels. Some of the most intense moments in the game for sure. You face off against these really skilled enemies, and it's just you, them, and your sword. Next we have Guardians of the Galaxy. This one's interesting because it kind of had everything going for it, but for some reason, it didn't hit as big as people expected at launch. I mean, you've got one of the most beloved Marvel teams, a great developer, Eidos Montreal, and a focus on single-player storytelling, which is something a lot of people were craving, but when it dropped, it just didn't make the splash it should have. So, what happened? Well, for one, people were still feeling the aftershocks of Marvel's Avengers. That game didn't really land well with fans, and it made a lot of people skeptical about Guardians. Folks saw another Marvel game and thought, here we go again with another live service mess. Even though Guardians of the Galaxy is nothing like that. It's a totally single-player, story-driven experience with zero microtransactions or live service elements. But it got lumped in with Avengers, and that hurt its initial reception. Now let's talk about the controversial stuff. The characters. Some fans were thrown off because the game's versions of Star-Lord, Gamora, and the rest of the crew didn't look or sound like their MCU counterparts. If you're used to Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, or Zoe Saldana as Gamora, it might take you a second to adjust to these new interpretations, but once you do, you realize they're actually great. The writing is sharp, the dialogue is hilarious, and the chemistry between the Guardians is spot on. It feels like you're right there with them, and the banter between the team is one of the best parts of the game. The combat also got mixed reactions. Some people found it a little chaotic at first. Next we have Sekiro. I went in this game expecting something similar to Dark Souls, but nope. Sekiro has its own thing going on. It's all about timing, parrying, and mastering patience. You can't just hack your way through this one, but when you finally land that perfect parry, or take down a boss that's been wrecking you, it's the most satisfying feeling ever. The combat is so tight and precise. I love how it's focused more on skill than stats. Every fight feels like a proper duel, especially with that posture system. Instead of just slashing away, you're breaking down their defense to land that killer blow. It's a challenge, but man, when you get the rhythm down, it's amazing. And that grappling hook, Dude, it's such a game changer. You feel like a legit ninja, zipping around trees, rooftops, and sneaking up on enemies from above. I can't count how many times it saved me from getting killed. It just makes exploring the world way more fun. Speaking of the world, the whole setting in feudal Japan is stunning. The environments are so detailed, from peaceful bamboo forests to war-torn castles. Every area has this mysterious beauty to it. And as you explore, you start piecing together the lore, which is so From Software in the best way. Now, I won't lie, Sekiro is hard. It can be brutal, but in a good way. I've died more times than I care to admit, but each death feels like a lesson. You can't just rush in. You've got to learn your enemies' moves, find their patterns, and perfect your timing. And when you do, it's like reaching some kind of gamer zen. Next we have Far Cry 4. It's one of those games that really sticks with you. Right from the start, you're thrown into this beautiful yet chaotic Himalayan country called Kyrat, and boom, there's Pagan Min, the villain you'll love to hate. He's charming in the most unsettling way, and I just couldn't get enough of his weird charisma. Honestly, he steals the show every time he's on screen. But beyond the story, what really drew me in was Kyrat itself. The world is just stunning. You've got these towering mountains, lush valleys, rivers, and temples scattered everywhere. I found myself getting lost in the world, not just doing missions, but just exploring, climbing cliffs, gliding off with a wingsuit, or hunting animals to upgrade my gear. It's one of those open-world games where every corner has something to discover, and it just makes the world feel alive. Now, the gameplay is so fun. You can tackle situations however you want, and for me, that meant switching between stealthy bow kills and, riding elephants into enemy outposts like a madman. Seriously, who doesn't love charging through a camp on an elephant? And the wildlife itself adds a whole other level of unpredictability. I've lost count of how many times I was sneaking up on an enemy, only for a tiger or bear to crash the party and wreak havoc. The missions are great too, especially the ones involving the Golden Path. You get to make decisions that affect the revolution you're part of, and they're not always black and white. I liked that it made you think about the consequences. All in all, Far Cry 4 is just packed with stuff to do. It's got this mix of intense action and moments of absolute chaos. Next we have Subnautica. This game is a total gem for anyone who loves exploration, survival, and a hint of mystery. You start out stranded on an alien ocean planet. There's this incredible mix of wonder and tension as you explore. It's like the game is always pushing you to go a little bit deeper, a little bit further, just to see what's out there. One of the things I absolutely love about Subnautica is how it nails the feeling of discovery. The ocean is vast, and filled with all sorts of creatures, plants, and places that are as beautiful as they are mysterious. Every time you dive, you're uncovering new things that make you feel like a real explorer. And even though it's underwater, the world feels so alive. From shallow coral reefs that are bright and colorful to the darker, deeper zones that get way more intimidating. It's all crafted with so much detail. You've got to manage your oxygen, food, water. It's challenging, but in a way that feels fair and really keeps you on your toes. There's something so satisfying about scavenging for resources, crafting equipment, and upgrading your gear as you go. Slowly building up your tools to explore deeper and farther feels super rewarding. It's like every small success is a huge win, and you get this incredible sense of progress. And the creatures? They're incredible. Some are friendly, just minding their own business, but others? Well, let's just say there are a few surprises in the deep that make your heart race. The game does this brilliant job of making you feel small, like you're just one tiny part of this huge ecosystem that doesn't necessarily care about you. Next we have Once Human. What's cool here, it's not just about staying alive, it's about piecing together what happened to this world and how you fit into it. Every corner you turn, there's a story waiting, something eerie and fascinating. And the survival mechanics are deep, but never overwhelming. You're constantly gathering resources, crafting gear, and figuring out how to stay one step ahead. What's great is that it keeps you on your toes, always pushing you to think about your next move. But there's this balance. You're surviving, but you're also unearthing secrets and discovering new abilities. It feels rewarding, almost like every little victory brings you closer to understanding the world around you. Then, there are the creatures, each one more twisted and bizarre than the last. They're not just monsters. They have personalities, and they adapt based on how you play. Sometimes, you're just staring at these things, wondering how on earth they came to be. It's creepy, but in a way that makes you want to know more. Now, if you love multiplayer games, Once Human has a great co-op aspect that brings a whole new layer to the experience. Working with friends to survive and explore adds this camaraderie that makes each encounter unique. It's about building a little community, fighting alongside friends, and sharing those heart-pounding moments together. The environments have this gritty, decayed beauty to them, almost like a post-apocalyptic dreamscape where nature and the supernatural collide. Once Human just has this vibe, a mix of mystery, horror, and exploration. Next we have Until Dawn Remake. What makes Until Dawn so unique is that you're the one guiding the story. Every choice you make, every little decision, has a real impact on what happens to these characters. And in this remake, those intense moments feel even more vivid and polished. One of my favorite things about Until Dawn is how it feels like you're in a horror movie. But you're the one calling the shots. You're constantly making these choices, sometimes tiny, sometimes huge, and they all add up in ways you don't expect. It's the kind of game where you second-guess every choice, wondering if you did the right thing or just doomed someone. The remake brings even more of that suspense, and the character movements and expressions feel way more lifelike, so you're fully sucked into every tense moment. The characters are all really fleshed out too. Each one has their own quirks, personalities, and flaws, and you can actually feel the chemistry between them. It's like hanging out with a group of friends who have a shared past, and sometimes you have to decide who you want to trust or protect. The writing and performances feel even sharper here, making you care about these characters and root for them, while at the same time, you're totally nervous for them. The Until Dawn remake is one of those games that'll keep you glued to the screen. It's not just about surviving the night, it's about making choices you can stand by, or maybe ones you regret later. It's intense, thrilling, and incredibly satisfying, and it'll definitely keep you coming back for more. So grab a controller, dim the lights, and get ready for a wild, haunting ride. Next we have The Quarry. Now this is one of those games that really nails that interactive horror movie vibe. If you're a fan of games like Until Dawn, you'll feel right at home with this one. It's got all the classic horror tropes, teens stuck in the woods, creepy atmosphere, and a ton of choices that can make or break the story. What I immediately loved about The Quarry is how cinematic it feels. It's like you're watching a 90s slasher flick, but you get to control what happens. The graphics are top-notch, and the character models look almost lifelike. Sometimes I'd forget I was playing a game because it feels like you're directing your own horror movie. The voice acting is also solid, with a great cast, including some familiar faces like David Arquette. I think that adds to the charm because you feel like you're watching a real cast play out this insane story. And let me tell you, the story can go in wild directions depending on your choices. Every decision you make matters, from dialogue options to how you handle certain situations. Are you going to be the hero and save everyone? Or is your character going to make a dumb horror movie mistake and end up dead? It's totally up to you. The branching narrative is a big part of the fun because it keeps you guessing, and you can play it multiple times to see how different choices play out. One of the coolest parts about The Quarry is the setting. It's this rundown summer camp in the woods, and the way the game builds tension is masterful. At first, everything seems normal, maybe a little too quiet, but as night falls, things start getting weird. Next we have V Rising. So, right off the bat, you start as a weakened vampire who's just woken up after a long slumber. Your first goal? Rebuild your power, avoid sunlight, and, of course, drink a little blood along the way. The survival elements here are a unique twist, since they're all woven around classic vampire lore. Staying out of the sun isn't just an aesthetic choice. Sunlight will literally kill you in seconds if you're caught out. So every move you make is strategic. You're ducking between shadows, planning your hunts at night, and it gives the whole game this great layer of tension. It's rare for a game to make you feel so vulnerable as a powerful vampire, but V Rising pulls it off in such a clever way. There are forests, eerie castles, haunted villages, and a lot of places just begging to be explored. And it's not just about sightseeing. As you explore, you're gathering resources and materials to build up your very own castle. Yes, you get to build your vampire lair. This becomes your home base. And you can customize it however you like, filling it with coffins, crafting stations, and all the gothic decor you can dream up. The castle building aspect adds this fun, creative twist to the game. Combat is another area where V Rising really shines. It's not just hack and slash. There's actually a lot of skill involved. You have a range of vampire abilities you can unlock, like dashing around enemies, summoning dark magic, or even transforming into different forms. It's fast-paced and feels super satisfying. Next we have Black Panther War for Wakanda. Playing as Black Panther feels amazing. The combat is fluid, fast, and makes you feel like a total powerhouse. Whether you're slashing through enemies with those vibranium claws, or gracefully dodging attacks like the agile king you are, every move feels precise and satisfying. It's not just button mashing either. There's strategy involved. One thing I really appreciated is how accessible this game is. Whether you're a die-hard Marvel fan who knows every line from the comics or just someone who loved the movie, the game welcomes you in. It respects the legacy of Black Panther while also being fun and approachable for newcomers. It's one of those rare games where you can feel the passion and care that went into every detail. One of my favorite moments in the game, just roaming around Wakanda. It's not just a backdrop, it's a character in itself. The world feels alive, from the bustling marketplaces to the sacred mountain paths. There are little details everywhere that make it feel like a lived-in, breathing place. It's a reminder of what you're fighting for, and why Wakanda is worth protecting. And let's not forget about the villains. Oh, they're good. The kind of good where you love to hate them. They're menacing, they're challenging, and they push you to be at your best as Black Panther. Every encounter feels like a test of your skills and your resolve, which makes taking them down all the more satisfying. It's exciting, heartfelt, and just plain fun. It lets you step into the role of a hero. Next we have Nioh 2. The game isn't going to hold your hand. Nope. It's going to throw you into the deep end and say, all right, show me what you've got. But here's the thing. It's so rewarding when you figure it out. The combat is brutal and so satisfying once you get the hang of it. You've got these incredible weapons to choose from. Katanas, spears, axes, and even some more unconventional stuff if you're feeling spicy. Each one feels totally unique, and the game lets you play around until you find your favorite. For me, the dual katanas are where it's at. Nothing feels cooler than slicing through enemies like a total ninja. Oh, and the key system? It's genius. Managing your stamina during fights adds this extra layer of strategy. You can't just mash buttons and hope for the best. You've got to be smart. Time your attacks, watch your enemies, and plan your moves. At first, it feels like a lot to juggle, but when it clicks, it's like, okay, I see what you're doing here, Nioh 2, and I love it. One of my favorite additions to Nioh 2 is the yokai abilities. You're not just a badass samurai, you've got some supernatural tricks up your sleeve too. These abilities let you unleash devastating attacks, or turn the tide of battle when things get hairy. It's like, oh, you think you're tough, Mr. Demon? Watch this. It makes every fight feel dynamic, and gives you even more ways to experiment with your playstyle. The environments are steeped in Japanese mythology, and every area feels like a mix of history and fantasy. You've got eerie forests, ancient temples, and fiery hellscapes, each teeming with danger and hidden secrets. Next we have Disco Elysium. This isn't your typical video game. There are no epic boss fights, no laser-shooting guns, and no saving the world from a galaxy-ending threat. What you get instead is a deeply personal, weirdly hilarious, and sometimes emotional journey that sticks with you long after the credits roll. The premise is simple. You wake up as a detective with the world's worst hangover and zero memory of who you are or what you're supposed to be doing. Oh, and there's a murder to solve. But trust me, it's so much more than just a crime story. This is a game about choices, messy, chaotic, and completely human choices. And the best part, it never judges you for them. In most games, failing means you reload your last save and try again. Not here. In Disco Elysium, failing is just another part of the story. Maybe you'll bungle an interrogation, or maybe your attempt at a dramatic speech will turn into an awkward disaster. Either way, the game rolls with it, and often, the failures lead to some of the funniest or most touching moments. The way the game handles morality and themes is another standout. It's not about being a good or bad detective. It's about being your detective. You can play as a bumbling fool, a philosophical genius, or even a complete mess of contradictions. And the game never forces you into a box. It's about exploring who you are in this broken world. And trust me, some of the outcomes from your choices are hilarious. If you're up for a journey that's more about the questions than the answers, give this game a shot. Who knows? You might learn something about yourself along the way. Next we have Mirror's Edge Catalyst. It's a parkour lover's dream, wrapped up in a clean, futuristic package with a dash of rebellion. Now the first thing to love about Mirror's Edge Catalyst is its movement. You play as Faith, A runner who dashes, vaults, and slides through the city in ways that make you feel like you're part of a live-action, first-person parkour movie. The game's mechanics encourage flow, so when you're running, jumping, and chaining moves together without missing a beat, it's just pure satisfaction. Honestly, it's one of those games where you want to keep moving, and when you hit your stride, the freedom feels amazing. One thing Catalyst really nails is how it lets you approach challenges. There's always more than one way to get from point A to point B, so it feels like you're making the game your own. Maybe you want to take a long jump over a rooftop or weave through narrow alleyways. There's freedom in how you tackle each obstacle. Plus, there are time trials and side missions scattered around the city, so if you're a speedrunner at heart, there's plenty to test your skills. The City of Glass, where the game takes place, is a work of art. It's a super clean, almost clinical, futuristic landscape that somehow still feels vibrant and alive. The design team went for a minimalist style, with splashes of color that guide you through the world, making every jump and turn feel like it's part of a bigger, sleek canvas. Glass is structured as an open world in Catalyst, which means you can explore its rooftops and hidden pathways at your own pace. Next we have Dead Island 2. It's one of those games that after being in development for so long, you're just happy it finally exists. If you're into zombie games, this one is like a bloody sun-soaked vacation, where you can let loose and hack, slash, and smash your way through hordes of the undead. What's cool about it is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. The game knows exactly what it is, a fun, over-the-top zombie slasher set in sunny California. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. First off, the setting is great. Instead of a gloomy, post-apocalyptic wasteland, Dead Island 2 takes place in a colorful, almost absurdly beautiful version of Los Angeles. They call it Hell A, and the contrast between the bright, glamorous world of Hollywood and the grotesque, decaying zombies is just awesome. You're running through luxury mansions, beaches, and fancy neighborhoods, all while the city crumbles around you. It's like you're on a demented version of a sightseeing tour. The zombies themselves come in all shapes and sizes, and they're not pushovers. You've got your standard walkers, but there are also faster, more aggressive types, like runners and screamers who can call for reinforcements. Some are armored, others are on fire or covered in acid, and each type forces you to adjust your tactics. It keeps you on your toes and makes the combat feel fresh. You're constantly adapting and finding new ways to take them down, whether it's by using environmental traps, setting them on fire, or just going for headshots. Overall, Dead Island 2 is just a good time. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, but it doesn't need to. Next we have Sons of the Forest. If you're into survival games with an edge, this game takes that experience and dials it up in all the best ways. Right off the bat, it's intense. You crash land on this eerie, sprawling island, and it's clear from the get-go that you're not exactly alone, but there's a thrill to it that keeps you totally hooked. The game doesn't just drop you into a survival scenario. It throws you into a living, breathing ecosystem with some truly jaw-dropping realism. You feel like you're out there, battling against nature, and some other things we won't spoil. But I'll just say, the sense of isolation combined with danger is palpable. One thing I really love here is how the game rewards curiosity. You can choose your own pace, either charging ahead to explore, or taking things slowly to craft and build up your defenses. And man, the crafting system is deep. You'll be making everything from simple shelters to advanced traps, all while keeping an eye out for resources. It's this blend of strategy and suspense that keeps you on your toes the entire time. What's different from the usual survival experience is how it feels so grounded. Even simple things like setting up a campfire or catching fish feel like real-life survival tasks. You're not just managing hunger and thirst, you're adapting to the environment and learning its rhythms. And speaking of the island, this place is gorgeous in a haunting way. It's full of these dark, atmospheric forests and mysterious caves that call you to explore, but also send a chill down your spine. Next we have Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Now, I know a lot of us have waited years to see more of Pandora since the original Avatar movie. Whether you loved it for its visuals, the unique world, or just getting lost in this strange, immersive place. Well, here's the perfect excuse to dive back in and actually be in Pandora, not just watching it on a screen. The cool thing is, you're not just wandering around as a tourist. This is your home, and as you're exploring, you get this real sense of belonging. The way they've crafted the interactions with the world and other Na'vi characters just pulls you into the story. It's personal and really touches on that classic theme of connecting to nature, but on a whole new level. Combat-wise, it's balanced in a way that makes you feel powerful, yet still in tune with the environment. The Na'vi weaponry isn't just about brute force. It's more graceful, blending seamlessly with nature. It's not like you're there to destroy, but rather defend and protect, which gives a nice sense of purpose to every fight. And honestly, if you're into exploration, you're going to have a blast. Pandora's open-world setup lets you go off the main path, uncovering hidden spots that tell little stories of their own. It's the kind of game where you don't mind getting lost, because there's always something breathtaking to discover. So yeah, if you're looking for a game that's both visually stunning and has depth, give this one a shot. It's the kind of experience that'll stick with you long after you've turned off the console.